Welcome to the Be Better podcast with Infinity Real Estate Services. True stories from Bakersfield's business owners and entrepreneurs. We have sold over 50,000 homes in the Kern County area, and we are still going. Delete your limiting beliefs. If you have a dream, turn it into a goal. Only massive, inspired action will get you to where you want to be. If you're starting a business or looking to grow one, you're in the right spot. Welcome to the Be Better experience.
What's up, guys? It's Lee Barrison with Infinity Real Estate Services and the Be Better podcast. I want to thank everybody out there listening to this podcast today. As we always are trying to look for something that we can provide worth value. Of course, we're not looking for any money out of this program, but really just to inspire other people, whether it be in their business, whether they're entrepreneurs, lenders, realtors, anybody in the business. So with that being said, with no further ado, I'd like to invite my very good friend, Kraig Gradowitz, to the Be Better podcast.
Oh, thank you, Lee.
Welcome, Kraig.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
For sure. So let's give these people something of value, okay?
All right, let's do it.
All right. So, I mean, that's our job, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, education is value, and I think we can talk about some stuff, try to educate a little bit, try to help understand, and hopefully that interprets into some value, right?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Good.
So before the podcast, we started talking a little bit about what we're going to bring to the table today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's see real quick. Okay. Presidential election is over.
Is it? Okay. Wait, I'm behind the time. No, I'm kidding. Yes, no, it's over.
But thank God that's over. Right.
I agree.
Right.
Yes.
Got through that mess. We still have inflation issues.
Yes.
We have affordability issues.
Yes.
I'm sure that, being that you've been in the business, Kraig, for over 35 years and doing, finance, helping people with financing for their homes or businesses, that you've seen some up and downs. I mean, so you're kind of a historic monument in this building right now because, I mean, you've seen more than one more than one cycle, I guess.
Yes, right. Ups and downs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Yes, yeah.
So we were talking about this morning before we started the podcast, but, I think it's important that we can bring some value to people out there that are either on the fence still.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people prior to the presidential election, that was their main excuse as to why they don't want to make a move or they want to hold off for a moment.
Sure.
But now that that's over, and of course we're still dealing with life struggles with inflation and affordability and jobs.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about those folks out there that have thought about buying a home, but they're just not quite sure if they want to make that move.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing I would say is it's natural, okay, to feel like to see things coming in the future, like presidential election, to feel like, well, I'll wait until this happens or I'll wait until that. And I think that's all natural. So I think everyone out there that does feel that way, it is natural. But my perspective and what I want to bring to the table for value is what does the data say? What is the real, the numbers. And so I think that the first thing, that I would say is right off the bat, prior to the election, I was thinking about this the other day, prior to the election, we didn't know which candidate, of course, and each candidate had maybe a different plan or a different answer for that issue. And I just recall thinking, those are kind of slow moving processes either way.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's not like a snap the finger and it's kind of done. So I think that's something to first off consider. Are your needs for a family and a home 5 years from now, or are they today? Because relying on some of those policies can be slow moving. But I think what I wanted to focus on was the only thing that I learned in high school economics, which is supply and demand. Okay. And, it may sound simple, but it is actually the actual truth of what's really going on in the real estate market. So if someone was looking 2 years ago, 3 years ago, last year, 6 months ago, whatever it is, they probably have noticed that prices are going up, not down. Okay, and that's just simple supply and demand. There's not a lot of homes on the market as compared to other times. Therefore, the supply is tight. So then you think, well, why is demand high? Demand should be low too, for the reasons we talked about: inflation, affordability, waiting, all these things. Well, demand is still high. The reason demand is high is because there's more people in the United States that need a home than are not.
Sure.
And that's the real simple answer. It
Yeah,
sounds a little like, come on, it can't be that easy, but that's the real simple answer. In fact, if you went back and data check me, go to, Consensus Bureau or whatever, before the crash in '08, it was a little bit of an opposite issue.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I shouldn't say little bit.
No, I was going to bring this up because this is an important point.
Really is.
Yeah.
And everyone goes back to that. Well, the crash. Well, okay, let's go back to supply and demand. The issue there, oversupply of homes, and you can see this on data if you look it up. Oversupply of homes without enough demand to keep up with that. Interesting part is if you look at new construction alone, builders and developers after that crash who got, probably burned pretty severely.
Sure.
They're not going to do it again.
No, they're going to protect their ass is what they're going to be doing.
Right. They're hesitant, they're nervous. And
They learn a lot, though.
Correct. And they're waiting for what? They're waiting for demand, then I'll build. Okay, so it's a slow, that's a slow process in itself. So if you go back and look at our data today, we're building in new home units, whether that be multifamily or single family, give or take about 1 million a year. And we have household formations of about 2 million a year. Household formation just means, kids are old enough to get an apartment or whatever, things are growing and splitting up. We're underwater when it comes to supply and demand, and that's why the housing market continues to go up. And I hate to say it, that's why it's going to keep going up. It's not, there's no crash in our sight.
Yeah.
So I hate to break it to everybody out there.
It's truth. It's what we're bringing here to everyone, Craig. So, and that's a interesting point. So, not only the demand is high, but the rates compared to, COVID or whatever aren't nearly as low as they used to be, right? So it's almost like a double whammy for the buyer that's wanting to get into a home.
Right.
Am I right?
Absolutely right.
Okay, so they're not only getting gouged on pricing of the the current state because of the demand, but then also the rates aren't coming down to a lot of people's expectations, right? And so what is the old analogy? It goes like, marry the...
Yeah, marry the house, date the rate.
Yeah. Explain to everybody out there that might not know what that means. Because I think that's where, in a lot of situations, that's where we're at right now.
Well, I think here's I think an easy way to explain. I think it's an easy way. I hope it's an easy way to explain it. So, if I'm a buyer, I'm holding out maybe last year or whatever. My price range is $300,000.
Sure.
So I'm looking at a $300,000 house, and I go to a lender, and they say the rate is 7%, and I think, man, I just want to wait till it gets, let's say, to 6%. Let's just use that example. I didn't do the math, I'll be honest with you, Lee, but I mean, just off the top of my head, I'd say, let's call it $100 difference in payment. I don't know, maybe it's 120 or 30. I mean, but it
nothing crazy.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's not $500 a month. I know that. Okay, so let's just say 100. It's easy math. So I'm waiting for my $100 a month. Let's say I wait a year. Okay, so I've now, in theory, if the rate came to 6, I would have saved $1,200, right? Because I waited
Over the course of 1 year.
Over the course of 1 year, yes, thank you. But then I go back to that same house that's for sale for $300, and I'm going to ask a real estate agent, what do you think then it would be after a year? 310, 305, 308, 312,
350 maybe?
315, 320, 350. Who knows, right? But it's up. Here's the sad part. While I completely agree with all of the affordability issues and I hate it, the math on the investment side of it and the savings that you're waiting for, you've just lost $15,000 or $20,000 to save $1,000.
Craig, you just dropped a bomb right now. You know that, right?
Anna, it's just,
That's a great explanation to a potential buyer that's on the fence.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, I just wish that more people understood that. Whatever they do with their decisions is up to them. I mean, it's for me, there's things like school districts and having another baby coming or whatever. All that stuff's super important. Make your decisions based on that. Don't wait for this, cataclysmic crash, and then that's the time. It's just not happening in the future.
So the sun and the moon aren't going to align anytime
Not quite,
soon for
not
anybody?
quite,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good to know because I was hoping for that. But anyways, since that's not going to work out, let's talk about this. I mean, that's a good point because, I mean, look at the analogy that you just put together right there, right? So say they're having to pay $100 per month more versus waiting. Right. But yet the house, the value, I mean, our real estate values here in Kern County, Craig, have gone up by over 35 to 40% in the past 45 years during, once COVID showed up.
Yeah.
So if, let's use 30% and be conservative, but if that same $300,000 house were to hit the market today, then that ultimately would put them at about a $90,000 increase in price over the course of 5 years. Meanwhile, you were trying to save $1,200 per year.
Yeah, and I pulled that loosely. I mean, even 2,000 or 3,000 a year, you're still so far behind on real value that you've lost because you were holding out for that interest rate. So the answer, I guess, long answer, is now if you married the house, meaning you kept the appreciation, you kept the 90,000. That's your money.
Yes,
that's your money. No one else's. You own it. You married it. It's your money. But if the rates do drop from 7 to 6 or to 5 or to 4 or whatever you're holding,
then you can do what,
then
Craig?
you can get rid of the date and go date somebody else and
refi a new rate, right?
Right. Exactly.
I love that. It makes perfect sense.
That is what that expression means, and that's why I think people in our industry, use it because whether they are explaining it fully, it really actually makes sense because of the situation we're in with supply and demand. The values are going up. I'm sorry to tell you, they're going to continue. Feel free to wait. It's still going to keep going up. And then you're going to watch that you could have made 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 50 or in your analysis, 90, all for trying to save a little bit on the payment.
Right.
So tough. It's tough.
Powerful words right there, man. So I remember when I bought my first house, Craig, I was 22. And I lived in a garage conversion on the corner of South Brown and Lincoln and just newly married. And we finally moved into a house and we paid $170,000 for it.
Which back then was kind of a lot.
It was a lot back then. Our rate was 6.5%, which is perfectly fine at the time.
Yeah, of course.
Didn't argue with that rate. And the rates aren't much different today than they were when I was 22.
Yeah.
Right? We're only talking about a half a point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, but now that house, that same exact house, is probably worth about $410 or $420 maybe.
Yeah.
So we bought it for $170
Yeah.
at a 6.5% rate.
Right.
As of now, you could buy that same house for $400 and
Right.
plus $1,000.
Right.
And so, I mean, there's a lot of folks out there that my hopes about this conversation today is that you can drive something home for the folks that are either waiting for tax returns,
Yes.
or the people that are questionable about the market, people
Right.
that are, don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
And mind you, before we go any further, we do have a first home buyer seminar coming up on the 5th of next month here at 2611 F Street.
Nice.
And so anybody out there, of course, we're partners, long-term partners with Signature Home Lending.
Yep.
Craig and his team are going to be here.
Yep.
So if anybody out there doesn't want to reach out on DMs, be sure to be here. We'll feed you, teach you, coach you, and just give you our best advice. But anyways, fire away.
I love it. No, I love it. And I agree. I think that's a great time to come in and ask questions and feel free to ask the hard ones too. Like, why do you feel this or why do you think that? And everything that I'm going to respond always is just going to be data because I'm just a numbers guy. It's just the way my mind works. It's not a gut feeling or anything like that. I just, it just is what it is, But I sympathize, with people that the affordability. I'll tell you, me and my wife bought our home in 2020, and I'm not sure I could pull it off today. It's gone up so much that where I would have to pay for it today. I'm not sure I could pull it off.
You might be driving Uber at night.
Exactly. Right. So it's like, I sympathize completely for that. But I also think that, we always want, all of us, it's human tendency. We want what we can't have. We want, taken away from us. And now we want it back. And that's really all that's really happened. To your point, that's really all that has happened. It's not that the rates are so high as compared to historical times. It's not that homes are going up for no good reason or anything like that. But we just want what we should have had 3 years ago, and I'm having a hard time getting over that. And that is understandable completely, but at the same time, it's getting worse, not better, because it's leaving you further and further behind. So if you had your 401k and you lost 20% of value or 30% of value, whatever, and you sat down with your guy and he said, look, I can help you start to correct that. Okay, we made some wrong decisions. I can help you to start to correct that. What would you do?
I would want to know how to correct it.
Right. Okay, I'm listening. Help me to try to correct it. And that's what I'm saying right here, right now, is I'm telling you that you have made some decisions to wait that have not turned out to be the right decisions. And you still can make the right decision now to start getting in and get into a home, so you can then benefit from the appreciation, and if later need be, to refinance it. It's just it's a correction that you should be thinking about.
That's good. That's all good advice, Craig. And here's something else that just jogged my memory. But like a week ago, I was on the phone with a potential client that was wanting to buy a home. Let's see, 26 years old, correction officer. He makes probably $70,000 a year. Good credit. He's been married since he was 20, and he's lived in the same apartment since he was 20 as well. And the conversation went like this. Okay, we'll call him Xavier. Okay, but so I asked Xavier, okay, so now that you're in a position to buy, we've gotten with Signature Home Lending to get you qualified and so on and so forth. Let's get started and let's start pulling the trigger. And he says, well, I just don't feel comfortable because everyone I talk to says that the price is going to go down and the rates are going to go down. And I said, that's fine. But okay, so how much rent do you pay per month right now? He says $2,000 a month. I said, okay, well, that's $24,000 per year that's being dedicated 100% to your landlord's mortgage.
Yeah, it's just going in the trash.
It's just going in the trash. Yeah, you're just throwing the money away.
Sure.
Where did the rent start? It was $1,500 6 years ago.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, so now he's at $2,000, and he's being quoted at a $350,000 sales price. I think he's being quoted $2,160 a month, and he can't get his head wrapped around that payment.
Yeah, I mean, but really, we're talking about, like social peer pressure, if you will, or whatever. We're humans. Okay, everything we're talking about might make sense on paper. We're still humans. When I walk out of here, I'm human. You're human, and we're affected by the people that we're around. And if my grandpa told me to do this, or if my best friend told me to do that,
then I should do it.
That means that I have to, because I have trust with those people, and I don't have trust for Craig and Lee, because I've never met them.
Right.
And that's okay. But, numbers don't lie, as they say. And so I would just encourage people to really do their own homework, their own math, their own research. And you know what? Here, I thought about this too. This is kind of funny. I thought about this the other day. The first thing you need to say to somebody who says you should wait because, okay, whatever because is, because could be anything. The first thing that you should do is ask them, do you own a home?
Ooh, okay. No, because I'm holding off.
Well, because if it's your parents, they probably own a home.
Right.
If it's your grandparents, they probably own a home. If it's your supervisor, he probably owns a home. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, you're enjoying all of this.
Right.
You're going up in appreciation every month and year, but I'm holding off. So, it's like you have to be a little bit careful as to where the information's coming from, So, anyway.
And I think, on the real estate side, not so much the lending side, right now, as a buyer, I mean, you actually, so as of Monday, we have 3.3 months of supply of inventory if nothing else got listed. So it basically takes 3.3 months to sell everything. Right. Now, that is a pendulum that shifts from a seller's market to a buyer's market. 3.3 is the magic number. So right now, we're heading into more of a stronger buyer's market. And so now you have more leverage to negotiate a lower payment, maybe some points knocked off of your rate. There's plenty of reasons to actually get involved in the game versus waiting till the spring or waiting till the summer, right? Yeah, because if you do want to wait till then guess what? Everybody and their grandma is also waiting just like you. So that means you're going to have much more competition. So the question is, do you want more competition or less competition to where you negotiate a better deal for yourself, right?
Absolutely. And I think if nothing else, I wish people listening will really, really think about that statement right there.
Sure.
Okay. Because we all run to the long line at Disneyland because that has to be the best ride. That's just what we do as humans. We see the long line and we run to the long line. Okay. If you wait for everyone to finally get in line to buy a house, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
The $300,000 house that you were looking at that I talked about earlier is now listed for, we're going to call it $315,000. And now I got 15 people making an offer on it. So they actually end up getting it for $350,000 or $340,000 or something like
Yes.
that. I'm sorry, but it's not smart to wait for that reason alone. Forget everything else we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there's 3.3 months supply that becomes zero because there's so many people going at one time. If everyone's waiting for rates to come down, then when rates come down, everyone buys. There's nothing to buy. It's a tough situation.
Yeah. So, Craig, I think really what it comes down to, just in this conversation, great podcast, by the way, this is good stuff, is that your motivation should trump the numbers game, the details, right? So if you have a kid on the way, if you're going through a divorce, if you're going through a death, if you're, if there's any life-changing events that you can't negotiate with and you have to make that move, then do it now and just trust the process.
Trust the process, exactly. And listen to your advisors, okay, lender, realtor, the professionals that really actually do this and understand it. Absolutely trust the process. And I absolutely agree that life events and life circumstances should always trump the speculation. I saw one time Warren Buffett, he's like one of the most famous investors, right? Okay. Yeah. And I want to say, I'm going to get it wrong, but it's going to be fairly close. I want to say Warren Buffett, when he speculates the stock market, and he's the absolute guru, he gets it right. I think it was like, 30% of the time or something. It was crazy. It wasn't the number you would expect. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, to everyone who's listening, if you're not to his status, which I certainly am not, and no one else is, why are you trying to speculate the real estate market? I mean, what expertise do you have to speculate the real estate market? Yeah. And, I would just focus on the life events. I think that's the absolute best advice you could give somebody. If I was involved in a transaction, 2 or 3 months ago, and their major life event was high school was approaching. Their daughter plays soccer.
Big deal.
Has to be a certain high school, so therefore have to move into that, And that to me, I love the word, trumps everything. It absolutely does. And just let everything else fall where it falls.
Right. So people they only sell off 3 reasons too, right? So number 1 is going to be greed. Yes. So now you're dealing with a lot of unmotivated sellers that are asking way too much money for their home. Second are going to be financial crisis, whether or not they lose their job or file bankruptcy or whatever that story is. Relocation. But then life, life events that take place that make you highly motivated to do something is the most important part. So, I mean, with that being said, Craig, I really appreciate your time. I think this is a really good conversation, very impactful.
Super.
Craig, you want to let everybody out there know how to get a hold of you or where to email you or whatnot?
Sure. Well, email's a little bit long, but let's try it. So it's Kraig, that's KRAIG at signaturehomelending.com. I think email's probably the easiest way, but our office number, my direct line office number, 661-370-0560, and love to see you at our first time homebuyer event. That's a great place where we can have one-on-one conversations. And, anytime you want to, book something with me or one of our loan officers just to talk and chat, we would love to.
Yeah, they have a great team at Signature Home Lending, guys. If you haven't ran into them or worked with them in the past, we've had a business situation, a relationship for about 4 to 5 years now, and it's been very fruitful, impactful. I mean, your team and yourself, the leadership in your company obviously speaks out loud to a lot of people. So I do appreciate you being here again, Craig.
Thank you.
Everyone out there that's listening to the Be Better podcast, I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. Reach out to Craig if you have any questions. Other than that, make it a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.